Hello, and welcome to episode 16 of Burns Banter, the podcast that takes a fresh look at the life and works of Robert Burns, hosted by myself, Alistair Turnbull. In this episode, I'm going to look at a great poem by Robert Burns called Holy Willie's Prayer. It's a great satirical work and probably one of the best satires in the whole of the Scots language, I would say. But I'm going to ask a few questions about this poem. What was it all about? I mean, what started it all off? What was the incident that happened that made Robert write Holy Willie's Prayer? And we'll look at the people involved. Then I'm going to read the original poem to you, read a translation, and maybe tell you a little bit more about it after that as well. So let's dive straight in and ask the first question. Okay, what was the incident that caused Robert Burns to write Holy Willie's Prayer? Well, it all started with a Kirk elder in Mauchline called William Fisher. Now, William Fisher was very zealous in his duties. He used to visit the sick and the elderly and be very good at that, but he didn't have much Christian charity about him. He used to spy on people and report all their sins back to the minister, William Auld. Daddy Auld, his nickname was actually at the time. And people really disliked him for this, obviously. He saw himself as a shining example of righteousness for his congregation, this guy William Fisher, where in reality he was just as much of a sinner as anybody else. He drank a lot, he did a bit of fornication, the whole lot, but he didn't see himself like that. He got into an argument or a dispute or some sort of feud with a guy called Gavin Hamilton. Now, Gavin Hamilton's a friend of Robert Burns, a man of high standing, a lawyer. He was actually looked after the accounts for the church as well. And Willie Fisher accused him of certain things like not going to church enough, of not giving all the money to the church from the tenant, which is the money you get from the poor and all the rest of it, you know. And Gavin Hamilton said, I haven't done any of that. I've done everything correctly. And over years, this built up until Willie Fisher took Gavin Hamilton to court about these things. He accused him of digging his garden on a Sunday. He accused him of going on a trip to Carrick on a Sunday. He accused him of letting his servants pick potatoes and kale from his garden on a Sunday. Huge crimes like this. And he took them to the Presbytery of Ayr to say that Gavin Hamilton is such a sinner and I am such a righteous man. But the Presbytery of Ayr came down on Gavin Hamilton's favour. He won his case. He mainly won his case because he hadn't done anything wrong. But he also had a guy called Robert Aitken. He engaged the services of Robert Aitken, who was also a lawyer. His nickname was called Orator Bob. He was very good at speaking. In fact, Burns himself once said that he didn't fully appreciate his own work till he heard Robert Aitken say it out loud. In fact, Robert actually dedicated the Quarter Saturday Night to Robert Aitken. Anyway, I digress. So Robert Aitken was a lawyer for Gavin. They went to court. They went against Willie Fisher, who was the elder, and they won their case. And Willie Fisher is incensed at this. He's lost face. And this whole incident sort of highlights the religious hypocrisy of the church at the time. And it was deep-rooted. I mean, Robert himself is a God-fearing man. He believes in God. This is not an anti-religious poem. It's anti-bigotry and hypocrisy. It's pointing out the bad things in the church, not that the church is wrong. Anyway, Gavin won his case. Willie was really upset. And to highlight all this, Robert wrote the poem Holy Willie's Prayer. And it takes the form of Willie Fisher sitting down at night and saying a prayer. And all the things in the prayer you can't believe because they're very hypocritical. Anyway, I shall stop talking about the incident now and we'll get on to the poem itself. So here is the original version of Holy Willie's Prayer. O thou that in heaven dost dwell, as it pleases best thyself, send ane to heaven and 10 to hell for thy glory, and no for ony good or ill they've done afore thee. I bless and praise thy matchless might, when thousands thou hast left in night, that I am here afore thy sight, for gifts and grace, and burning and a shining light to all this place. What was I or my generation, that I should get sick else exaltation? I wha deserve most just damnation for broken laws, 6,000 years ere my creation through Adam's cause. From when my mother's womb I fell, that might have plunged me deep in hell, to gnash my gums and weep and wail in burning lakes, where damned devils roar and yell, chained to their stakes. Yet I am here, a chosen sample, to show thy grace is great and ample. I'm here, a pillar o' thy temple, strong as a rock, a guide, a buckler, an example to all thy flock. O Lord, thou kens what zeal I bear, when drinkers drink and swearers swear, and singing here and dancing there wi' great and small. For I am keepit by thy fear, free for them all. But yet, O Lord, I confess I must, at times I'm fashed with fleshly lust, and sometimes too in worldly trust vile self gets in. But thou remembers we are dust, defiled with sin. Ach, Lord, yestereen, thou kens, wi Meg, thy pardon I sincerely beg. O may ne'er be a living plaque to my dishonour. I'll ne'er lift a lawless leg again upon her. Besides, I further maun avow, wi' Leesie's lass 3 times I trow, but Lord, that Friday I was fou when I came near her, or else thou kens thy servant true would never steer her. Maybe thou let'st this fleshly thorn buffet thy servant even in morn, lest he our proud and high should turn, that he's sae gifted. If sae, thy hand maun e'en be borne until thou lift it. Lord, bless thy chosen in this place, for here thou has a chosen race. But God, confound their stubborn face and blast their name, while brings thy elders to disgrace and open shame. Lord, mind Gavin Hamilton's deserts. He drinks and swears and plays at kerts, yet he sae money taken airts wi' great and small. Frae God's ain priest, the people's hearts he steals awa'. And when we chasten him therefore, thou kens how he bred sic a spore, and set the world in such a roar, all laughing at us. Curse thou his basket and his store, kale and potatoes. Lord, hear my earnest cry and prayer against that presbytery of Ayr. Thy strong right hand make it bear upon their heads. Lord, visit them and dinna spare for thy misdeeds. O Lord my God, that glib-tongued Aitken, my very heart and flesh are quaking, to think how we stood, sweatin' shaking, and pished wi' dread, while he wi' hinging lip and snaking held up his head. Lord, in thy day of vengeance try him. Lord, visit them wha did employ him, and pass not in thy mercy by them, nor hear their prayer, but for thy people's sakes destroy them, and dinna spare. But, Lord, remember me and mine, wi' mercies temporal and divine, that I for grace and gear may shine excelled by nane, and all the glory shall be thine. Amen. Amen. Holy Willie's Prayer, translation. A little bit of a modern twist. Let's see if we can understand some more of the words in this one. O you, who in the heavens does dwell, as it pleases best yourself, Send 1 to heaven and 10 to hell, all for thy glory, and not for any good or bad they've done during their lifetime. I bless and praise you, matchless might, when thousands you have left in night, that I am here before your sight for gifts and grace, a burning and shining light to all this place. Why should I, or my very birth, receive such exaltation? I who deserve most just damnation for broken laws, 6,000 years before my birth, all on account of Adam's original sin. When from my mother's womb I fell, thou might have plunged me deep in hell, to gnash my gums and weep and wail in burning lakes, where damned devils roar and yell, chained to their stakes. Yet I am here, a chosen sample, to show your grace is great and ample. I'm here, a pillar of thy temple, strong as a rock, a guide, a shield, and an example to all thy flock. O Lord, you know what zeal I have, when drinkers drink and swearers swear, singing here and dancing there, as do all the social classes. For I am kept, through fear of you, free from all these sins. But yet, O Lord, I confess I must, at times I feel the lust of the flesh, and sometimes too, since I am only human, vile self gets in. But you remembers we are dust, defiled with sin. Ah, Lord, yesterday evening, you know, I lay with Meg. Your pardon I sincerely beg. Oh, may it never be a living plaque on my dishonour. I will never lift a lawless leg again upon her. Besides, I must also declare I had Lizzie's daughter 3 times. But Lord, that Friday I was drunk when I came near her, or else you know your servant true would never have taken her. Perhaps you let this fleshy thorn torment your servant evening and morning, so he doesn't get too high and mighty about being so gifted. If so, thy hand must always be borne until you lift it. Lord, bless the chosen in this place, for here you have a chosen race. But God confound their stubborn face and blast the name of those who bring thy elders to disgrace and open shame. Lord, ensure Gavin Hamilton gets his just deserts. He drinks and swears and plays at cards. Yet he has so much influence among all the social classes. From God's own priest, the people's heart he steals away. And when we tried to make him change his ways, you know how he raised such a merriment and set the world in a roar of laughing at us. Curse you, his livelihood and his possessions, kale and potatoes. Lord, hear my earnest cry and prayer against that presbytery of air. Your strong right hand, Lord, smite them upon their heads. Lord, visit them, and do not spare them for their misdeeds. O Lord, my God, that glib-tongued Aitken, my very heart and body are quaking to think how we stood sweating, shaking, wetting ourselves with dread, while he, the smooth-tongued snake, was able to win his case. Lord, in thy day of vengeance try him. Lord, visit them who did employ him, and pass not in your mercy by them, nor hear their prayer. But for your people's sake destroy them, do not spare them. But Lord, remember me and mine, with mercies temporal and divine, so that I for grace and wealth may shine, excelled by none, and all the glory shall be yours. Amen. Amen. said to be one of the best satires ever written in the Scots tongue, and one of the best ever written in the English language. It just shows the hypocrisy of the church. Again, it's not against the church itself. Willie Fisher, there was a lot of folklore about what happened to him after this. Some people said he died quite soon after it, lying dead in a ditch beside a bottle of whiskey. I've looked into this. The poem was originally published in 1789, anonymously in a pamphlet. Willie Fisher did not die till 1809, so 20 years later. However, Willie Fisher did die in a ditch. He was found frozen to death in a ditch on a very snowy February night. In the folklore, it said he had a bottle of whiskey beside him, but in the report of his death, the report of his death that I found, there was no mention of whiskey, although it may have been inferred. Anyway, I hope you know a lot more about Holy Willie's Prayer now, a lot more about the people involved, and I hope to see you again on the next episode of Burns Banter. But until then, Slán Java.